Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Pleasant good afternoon to you and all. Welcome to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift, on Global 99.5 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. As always, pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in on this a bit of cloudy Monday afternoon. Y'all got to watch what's going on out there in the tropics. They say it looks like something trying to develop out there, so you know what that means. We're in the midst of hurricane season, so make sure that you are well prepared for what may come our way. So today is Monday, and we are doing another masterclass as we continue our series on the Constitution of the Bahamas. So you know what that means. My guest, once again, is Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson, who is very, very well versed when it comes to the Constitution of the Bahamas. You getting us both in there, Jason? And he's helping to break this down for us to understand, beginning with the preamble, and then we're going to go clause by clause by clause. So by the time we are done with this series, you're going to have no excuse as to why you are not aware of what is enshrined in the Constitution of the Bahamas. And then once you have that knowledge, we're going to send out an army of people to make sure that you hold our leaders accountable and hold their feet to the fire to make sure they know what's in the Constitution and that they don't violate or attempt to violate what is enshrined in our Constitution. As we have said repeatedly, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So we can't take this lightly. But if you don't know what's in it, then you definitely won't know how it applies to you. So welcome back to the show, Professor.
Thank you, Ms. Malcolm, and it's good to be here again, and I'm happy that you emphasize the supremacy of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, we know many people in the past and still today are not that familiar, but I'm happy to see that there is that interest, people beginning to show real interest in the Constitution. That has made me very happy to see that.
This series is gaining a lot of traction. I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback from this.
That is good. I'm happy that they're listening.
Yeah.
And of course, they will be tried and tested as we move along,
Mm-hmm.
because the enemy is waking and we have to be prepared to fight. And the knowledge is there.
Mm-hmm.
It can be simplified, and that's what I'm here to do, to help
Okay.
people to understand this most valuable document,
Mm-hmm.
your salvation document for the saving of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Not the saving of your soul.
No,
Yeah, we need to separate the two of
No,
them.
that is
Don't
true,
get
yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. The numbers to call if you have a question, 326-0271, 326-0271. One more time, 326-0271, 326-0272, 326-0272. The WhatsApp line to send us a text messages only, to be sent to 801-0271, 801-0271. So last week, we stopped at the point where we were covering what it means to be a free and sovereign democratic nation. And now I want to, well, before I dive in, let's go ahead and play that clip, which again is the preamble of the Constitution, just so you could hear what it says, and then we will continue to break it down for you.
The Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Preamble. Whereas 481 years ago, the rediscovery of this family of islands, rocks, and keys heralded the rebirth of the New World. And whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and an abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law. Now know ye, therefore, we, the inheritors of and successors to this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation founded on spiritual values and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone or their labor exploited or their lives frustrated by deprivation, and do hereby provide by these articles for the indivisible unity and creation under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
And last week we stopped at the point where she talked about where we hear about the free and sovereign democratic nation. So we're picking it up now, Professor, at the section where it says, what are these spiritual values? Talking about spiritual values. What are these spiritual values that are the bedrock of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas?
That is a good question. The spiritual values are what the Bahamian people got from the Holy Scriptures. In fact, when we came out of slavery in 1834, the people went into the little church that was set up for them to give God thanks and praise for having had the chains taken off them. And that has been the Bahamian people in their psyche. When we came to January the 10th, 1967, that was the first opportunity for people of color to really begin to do something for themselves.
Right.
And then 1973 came along, July the 10th. There was a lot of preparation from 67 to 72, which led up to the general election, where the Bahamian people decided that they wanted to be an independent state. Now, there were those who felt that we were not ready at the time.
Right.
But it was taken to an election, and in the election, the people determined we would be an independent nation. Now, prior to that, there was the white paper, there was the green paper. There was tremendous discussion. And the religious leaders of the day made a significant impact. The people didn't want a nation without God, lock, stock, and barrel. It is important that we hear to these spiritual values, which are entrenched in the Holy Scriptures, where God is to guide and lead the nation. That is what we are built on. That's the bedrock. You move away from that, you're asking for trouble. Nothing wrong with listening to people who say they got some advice to give you. But what is the basis of it? If we build a nation without God, it is destined to fail. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. Because you don't have a solid rock foundation. It's very, very weak without God. So that is what our mothers and fathers did for us. We would train our children to read the Bible, to understand the scripture. That's why you have these churches. These churches were to be an integral part in the society and has been so straight on through. So that bedrock of spiritual values has to do with what is contained in the Holy Scripture.
But some would argue, though, Professor, that back then it was a different Bahamas than it is now. So you back then may not have had so many people who believe in another deity, another higher power. And so, that may have worked for them back then. But now we have people here who believe in other or part of other religions that don't necessarily adhere to the Christian faith. So how would you respond to those persons who say, well, we need to look at this because that's the Bahamas then, but it's not necessarily the Bahamas now?
That's an interesting question. I'll answer it this way. The Constitution, in Article 22, I think it is, has made provision. See, only in the Bahamas this could happen, because it can't happen in Iran. And people need to understand and stop talking foolishness. Okay? The founding fathers made it possible for those who want to be of a different religion. Fine. You could have that. Have as many you want to worship, one black cow or one white cow. That's your business. But the will of a few individuals or the psyche of a few individuals should not supersede the national will of them. We were not founded on those funny things. So if an individual has that, they can have that. We allow it to happen. But tell them, go take it to Iran or some of those other strange countries out there and see what would happen to them. You see, it really amazes me the way how people think, or they believe. See, we have tremendous freedoms in this country. They have freedom to practice their religion. You want to be a Muslim? They got one big church down there. Carmichael Road, I think it is.
Yeah.
We don't be interfering with them. But the point is, people need to understand the nation was founded on certain things. That's why they can have that church down there on Carmichael Road. That's why them fellas can have their Rasta camp. If it was founded on something else, they probably won't even exist. So they're looking at it. Let me make my point.
Yeah.
They're looking at it and not understanding that the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the founding fathers, made provision for freedom of conscience, freedom of religion. So they can have that. But it doesn't mean that the nation as a whole has to accept that.
I understand. In other words, the Constitution, in the way it is written, even though it says that we will be a nation
Under God.
that follows, adheres to, not adheres to, but an abiding respect for Christian values.
That's correct.
What you're saying is that also provides freedom for others who want to worship the way they want to worship.
And it's
unlike in Iran, where if
Exactly.
you come there and openly proclaim Jesus Christ, you may not leave with your life.
You better believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that. So that's not a problem. I don't know why they keep bringing it up. It's not a problem. It may be a problem in some other place, but not a problem here. But I'll tell them one thing. We ain't backing down from those Christian values and the rule of law and being under the supremacy of God. We know from whence we came. They may not know, they may not understand. They have a different culture. So even though they're in the Bahamas, well, in fact, when you become a Bahamian, you're supposed to adapt the Bahamian way of life. Now, if you want to be satisfied with that, I don't know why you're being here. But you can't come and push something that is strange and foreign to the Bahamian psyche, the Bahamian way of life, and say that must become the national standard. I have a serious problem with that.
I was a part of a very interesting conversation yesterday. I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
attending a function, and the question of prayer before a meeting in a workplace came up,
Yes.
and some were of the view that that has no place in a workplace because there may be somebody in that meeting that does not believe in Christian, the Christian ideology, and by starting your meeting off with a prayer, that could ostracize that person. Now, I know that a private business meeting is completely different from the nation, but I just thought it was an interesting conversation because that was the attitude. There's no place for prayer in a business setting because what if I have a Muslim in here? I am then making that Muslim feel uncomfortable. How do you respond to that if somebody tries to bring that argument on a national standpoint?
But it's a nullity. See, we have to understand what we were found on. We can have Muslim prayers in the House of Assembly now. We can start praying to Allah. Is that what we're going to be doing? Or one big black cow in front of the door? Is that what we're going to be doing? From the time we were a colony and became a nation, prayer played an integral part of the Bahamian psyche, the Bahamian way of life.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to stop talking foolishness and nonsense. If they're uncomfortable, tell them to leave then. No one is interfering with him. If that's what he thinks in his head, that's what he wants to have, he is free under Article 22 to do that. But then you want to take that and put that over the nation as if the nation's supposed to follow that principle. The answer is no. It's not in our history.
Mm-hmm.
Our history is totally different from those other countries.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to be a Bahamian in the Bahamas, then you follow the Bahamian way of life. If you want to be an Islamic fella, then you go where they have that in their country.
Mm-hmm.
So here you have these useless, vain, empty, futile arguments which hold no water. Because we ain't telling the fella he can't have his Muslim church, We ain't telling the fella he can't have his Rasta camp.
Mm-hmm.
But they have all of that. And you're still grumbling and complaining about us who believe something totally different from what you believe, where in our psyche, in the way we live as Bahamians, prayer is an integral part of our lives, whether on the basketball court, on the work, in the House of Assembly, all over. That is a part of our life. And we should not distance it or put it down because one or two people are offended. We're not here to please them. If you're offended, you could go elsewhere. You don't even have to be here because you could leave. The Constitution allows you to leave and don't even come back, as I know one of my relatives did. Gone over half a century and ain't reached back yet. But the Constitution, see, these are the things that get me angry, Ms. Malcolm, when I have people talking foolishness, You can leave. The Constitution allows you to leave and you ain't got to come back. It's just that simple. So you have all these freedoms. See, what does get me angry is you have all these freedoms and yet you're hearing all kind of useless arguments where problems may exist in some other places and we won't bring it here as if it exists here. It doesn't.
So would you say what you just explained is why the people proclaimed in solemn praise what the nation was to become? Why was that important?
That was important because we need to understand some basic fundamental principles on which the nation was founded.
Mm-hmm.
See, Ms. Malcolm, if you don't have your foundational stones in place, anything can happen. You build on sand, it will get washed away.
Right.
If you keep wavering back and forth, like I hear people, what is the vision for the Bahamas? I mean, what do you mean, what is the vision for the Bahamas? It has already been established in your Constitution. And I hear all people coming up, well, this should be the vision, that should be the vision. You may have a personal view on your own vision that you would like to see. Fine. We allow for freedom of expression, freedom of thought, all those things. But the vision for your country, why it was set up, why it was established, has already been set. We don't have to keep asking every day. It will keep changing day after day after day, and we always in an useless argument and get confusion because we ain't sure what we're supposed to be, where we're supposed to be going. And I have people have said it all the time. What is the vision for the Bahamas? Then somebody wrote something and say, this is the vision. But it's not constitutional. He has a right to express his view. That's constitutional. I'm not getting in that.
Mm-hmm.
But to tell me that is the vision for the country, that's not acceptable because it's not constitutional.
So, are you of the view then that if the Constitution is what is the vision for the country,
Yes, ma'am.
then all of this talk about a national development plan, should that plan sort of springboard from the vision, which is the Constitution? In other words, we've been talking about, we hear that what we need is a bipartisan national development plan where everybody, both major political parties, all the fringe parties, all the stakeholders come together to lay out what is the national plan for the nation. So if you're saying that the vision is the Constitution, should the national plan then be an expression or, receive direction from that vision, and we pretty much determine who we want to govern the nation based on who is able to execute that plan best?
I certainly agree. Because the thing is, I heard about this national development plan.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is, Ms. Malcolm, they said they had all the stakeholders. They didn't invite me now. I wasn't there, so I know nothing about that. I could tell you that. So maybe I'm not a stakeholder.
Mm.
But they had the political parties, fine. You had the different groups, the different this and different that.
Right.
Fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's constitutional for them to get together and discuss what they'd like to see happen.
Mhm.
That's constitutional. I ain't got no problem with that. But now you ask an important question. Should it not, this national plan, be based on or spring from the vision and the purpose that is entrenched in the Constitution? I say yes. Because every time we seem to move from one administration to the next, you always have all kind of duplications and changing this and changing that. And Ms. Malcolm, when you do all those things, you ask yourself, well, where's the stability as far as this plan is concerned? They had already agreed on what they call a national plan. Now, whether it's constitutional now, that's a different kettle of fish. I have to check that out.
Mhm.
But if they agree on something, well, then fine. Let's see whether it goes either with or contrary to the Constitution. Because I can tell you, as I'm sitting here right now and thinking, some things passed in that House of Assembly,
Mhm.
which they had all kind of talk on, totally unconstitutional. But are the Bahamian people wise enough to tell an administration that what you pass is unconstitutional? Now, they may not have the knowledge, they may not know, fine. But now after this series, what we're
No
going through,
excuse.
they ain't got no excuse. I can make sure they ain't have no excuse.
Mhm.
Because you ought to know. You should be able to tell an administration that is wrong. That is contrary to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Now, if the people decide they want to change something in the document, fine. I got no problem with that. But it should come from the people. Did it come from the people? Or they're just writing laws or making laws without any kind of reference? We've signed all kind of international agreements. And then I heard one of the people yesterday where they're saying in all these meetings there's a lot of fluff, a lot of talk,
Mhm.
but no action. But you ain't discussing nothing with the people who are here. How do we fit in? You're writing things, making up things, but the people here don't know. So that's another problem that we have. But I understand that they had agreed on some things, and every time you have a new administration comes in, it doesn't look as if the national plan is having any effect.
Hmm.
But it should be based on the Constitution of the Commonwealth. See, The Constitution is the document that you ought to be governing by, not some scraps of paper that some people write some things on. It's here today and then tomorrow it's gone. They decide they can change it. What kind of nation are we governing? What kind of place are we going to have if it keeps up and down like that?
Right. All right, we got to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to switch gears and start talking about this this section of the preamble that talks about no man, woman, or child being slave or bondsman to anyone. That's where we're going to head next. But we have to take a quick break, and we will continue after these words from our sponsors. Stay with us.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here with Professor Sidney, McArthur, Walter Thompson. We're talking about the Constitution now. I see where several of you are putting on our Facebook feed, and a couple of calls have come in that we've been off radio for a while. Well, I would like to inform you that apparently there's a power outage in the area where our transmitter is, and that is obviously impacting our ability to broadcast on radio. So hopefully that's completely out of our hands, because that's, a BPL function, we believe. No word about no lightning strike or nothing like that, like the last time. So we just gotta hope and pray and keep our fingers crossed that the lights come back on soon enough, so that we can get back up and running on radio. So the telephone numbers to call if you want to ask a question as it relates to the Constitution of the Bahamas and the discussion that we're having: 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line, if you would like to send us a text message, is 8010271. 8010271. All right. So we have to talk now about why it is so important that no man, woman, or child be slave or bondsman to anyone. Now, what does it mean? I think we need to define, what does it mean to be a slave or bondsman? Because some people might argue that we have a form of slavery going on here now. But let me let you break that down.
I'm happy the way how they put it in the document.
Mm-hmm.
It says no man, no woman, no child.
Mm-hmm.
That covers everybody, whether you're male or female or whatever other thing you may decide you are. It covers every person. Shall ever be, meaning as of July the 10th, 1973,
Mm-hmm.
slave or bondsman. Let me start with the slave thing first.
Okay.
Being a slave, working for someone, not being paid, made to do tasks, and you're not properly compensated for,
Mm-hmm.
and being mistreated in so many different ways. Like how it was when they put the chains and thing on our hands and feet.
Right.
But now, today, they got a different way of doing it now. They think they could mentally enslave you and enslave you by controlling how much money you can make, or not paying you fairly what you rightfully deserve, your qualifications. That's a slave mentality by those who are doing it. And we've had laws passed in relating to labor in our country.
Mm-hmm.
So as of July the 10th, 1973, no person should be mistreated or made to work for nothing or put in a position where they have to compromise themselves to their disadvantage just for a few dollars.
That sounds like most of the Bahamas, Professor.
Well, then we got to get rid of that, because that should have stopped as of July the 10th, 1973.
Right.
Now, bondsman. Being a bondsman where somebody owns you. This is my things. And some people still have that mentality today, where they think you are their property.
And somebody called my show the other day, Professor, and say the only possession a man have is his wife. Possession.
Isn't that something?
And I gave him a couple opportunities to correct himself. I say, possession? Yeah, possession. And he still wasn't getting what I was trying to say. Are you sure you want to use that word?
No, he was way off course.
Possession. Go ahead. Let me let you finish.
Okay.
I don't want to stray into another show topic, but
I understand how that could be.
Yeah.
But the thing is, some people believe you are their property. You belong to them.
Right.
You're a bondsman. You belong to me. I own you. I control you. You don't control human beings like that. That's not the way. That's why I'm so happy that we have a written constitution. We ain't got nothing coming down orally now, because that could change from day to day.
Mm.
And all kind of confusion would be in the land. But the point is, slave or bondsman to anyone or any entity or any organization. So the individual person could try to make you a slave or try to believe that you are part of their property,
Mm-hmm.
or a business or an organization or a grouping of individuals. These are my bondsmen. These are my slaves. But the Constitution says you're not to be slave or bondsman to anyone. At no time. But yet we have people today in 2022 still being mistreated. In spite of the fact that we have labor laws in place, where some people are deliberately and intentionally violating the labor rights of these people.
And the Constitution specifically does not mention anything in that particular clause of the preamble about citizen or non-citizen. It just says it says no man, woman, or child. Doesn't say no Bahamian man, woman, or child, no immigrant man, woman, or child. Correct?
That is correct. See, when you look at the document itself, if it says any person.
Right.
So whether you are a resident, whether you're a Bahamian, whether you're here on a work permit, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the Constitution would apply to you. Now, if you're here illegally, you're supposed to be arrested, put in the cell, and sent back out of the country.
But yet that clause of the preamble still applies to
It
you.
applies to them, yes.
Yeah.
It certainly does.
Right.
Because you have a standard which we ought to go by. So that means you don't mistreat an illegal immigrant. You don't make him a slave or a bondsman, because that's contrary to the Constitution. If he's here illegally, you got to send him back. Tell him you can't be here.
But you don't have the right to
You don't
exploit
have the
that
right
person.
to control him
Mhm.
and say, I could make fodder of him. That's wrong. And unfortunately, we have people who live that way, who
Mhm.
practice this kind of behavior in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's devious behavior, and it needs to be stopped. So the thing is that no man, woman, or child, whether you're Chinese man, Bahamian man, Jamaican woman, that's why I love the way how the document's set up, No man, woman, or child.
Period.
That includes everybody.
Mhm.
Now, them other fellows who say there's something else, well, that's a different thing. I ain't getting into that. But everybody is included.
Right.
Nobody is left out. I told this to some people I was discussing with them the other day. And they got upset with me. They say, well, their particular entity is not specifically mentioned. I said, what do you mean? The Constitution says any person. It says no man, woman, or child. You got anyone else apart from that? This is a part of your particular entity. But then if they are man, woman, or child, well, then everybody's covered. You ain't got to go no further than that. Now, if you decide to call yourself some other things, I ain't getting into that part. That's what you label yourself as. But if you're a man, woman, or child means boy and girl, or girl, shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone. Everybody is included. Every single person. See what a lot of people may not understand. I am convinced that the founding fathers were under inspiration.
Mm.
Those who were involved in putting this document together, because there was a lot of discussion, the green paper, the white paper, and then the election. Of course, that was the time, and I would mention this for the younger generation, the first time 18-year-olds were able to vote was September the 19th. That was the day after my birthday, 1972.
Mm-hmm.
So they participated in deciding whether we become an independent nation or not. They were involved in that.
Okay. Would you say that this principle is or has been achieved in the Bahamas? And if not, why not?
That's a good question. Excellent question that you asked. When I look back over, let me go to January 10, 1967.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back over the years, and I've been able to see all of them by the grace of God, I have to conclude in 2022, things have changed drastically over that 56 years. 56 years coming up in January.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, we've had and been bombarded by ideologies from persons who brought it into the country, from persons who come through and they want to impose certain things on us. That has not been achieved fully as of this year, 2022. We still have a lot of problems. And because we are not governing effectively according to the Constitution. The Constitution is your governing document. Now, the fellow may have his plan and this and that and the next thing. But is it in accordance with the Constitution? Does it line up with the Constitution?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what we have to look at. There's nothing wrong with the national plan if it lines up with the Constitution. We could work with that. But you have so much confusion when the fellas say, I'm going by this plan. When you examine the plan, you see some things in there that are not constitutional. So where are you going with that? He said he was elected to govern according to that plan. So the Constitution is not even mentioned. And Ms. Malcolm, I am amazed to see how people want to govern this country, but they don't even acknowledge the Constitution. What kind of nonsense is that?
So you're suggesting then that when we hear about all these manifestos and vision plans that the political parties come up with during election time, when they come knocking on your door asking for their vote and saying this is our mandate, this is what we're going to follow, you should have in one hand the Constitution and the next hand the manifesto, and you compare the two of them.
Yes.
To make sure that the manifesto or Vision 2020 or whatever you want to call it, 2022, 2021, that does not conflict with the Constitution.
Right. Because see, Ms. Malcolm, there's some things that we have to consistently do to do what? Preserve our freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
That manifesto and that our plan isn't going to preserve our freedoms, you know. While it may have some things in it that may be beneficial, I'm not knocking that part of it. But I'm saying, what is it based on? Is it based on the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which is the governing document for running the country? But if you're ignoring it and not paying attention to it, you know some things can get out of hand. And the nation is going to go down the drain.
I want to read a question from one of our Facebook viewers. Hasheen is asking the question, wouldn't all of the above seem to be unconstitutional, and wouldn't the minimum wage be unconstitutional as well? My question is, what is the punishment for a government that brings about an unconstitutional law or amendment? And the reason I'm asking this question is because it appears that we, the everyday Bahamian, are not protected by and within the Constitution.
Say that last part for me. I heard the first part, but that last part.
Okay. It says, let me see where to pick it up. Yeah. My question is, what is the punishment for a government that brings about a non-constitutional law or amendment? And the reason I'm asking this question is because it appears that we, the everyday Bahamian, are not protected by and within the Constitution.
Okay. I heard the last part. I heard the first part too.
Mm-hmm.
Notice what the person said. It appears.
Right.
In his or her view, that we're not protected. I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But we are. We've always been from July the 10th, 1973.
Mm-hmm.
Even if an administration doesn't recognize it, don't change anything. Now, what about a government that does something that's unconstitutional? Again, we go to Article 24.1. That's why we're having this discussion today, to help the Bahamian people to see that they have something in there. Ms. Malcolm, we got so much in our hand today more than what our founding fathers had. We have something to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and we can improve on it. All we have to do is examine the evidence. What is it that we have? What is that in your hand? It isn't that we don't have nothing to work with. Bahamians need to understand we are responsible for keeping an administration or a government in line. We can put the kind of pressure on them. I mean, very serious pressure that could break them. But are we ready to do that? Are we ready in 2022 to do that to an administration that's going contrary,
No.
seriously contrary to the Constitution?
No.
Okay. But we have
Because
to ask ourselves that, because when you look at what's going on in your country,
mm-hmm.
remember I asked the question about unity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten anyone to answer that yet, but I'll leave that for next week and see whether they come up with something.
Okay.
But the thing is that once you are armed with the information, and we know that the Constitution is final, the Constitution is supreme, and nothing that a government or an administration comes up with a statute law, it cannot at no time, I don't care what they say, I don't care what they think, I don't care what kind of thing they come up with, and try to smooth it off as if it's okay. It could be overturned by the people. The people of the country have to be willing to put the kind of pressure. They can determine what the pressure is now, to put on a government, and then we're supposed to be working in such harmony that we are to keep a government elected to perform the will of the people in check. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
So I can understand when he or she says, it appears, that's why I had to hear that again.
Right.
It appears to that particular person. I have no problem with that sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
But the one who knows, like myself, child, please, we have something to work with. So we have to get those persons like that individual and any others who think like that to see differently. And they are genuinely feeling that way. And I understand the sentiment.
Right.
But we have to help them to do better. That's why I'm here.
Mm. Fascinating. All right. Let me see. I think we need to take a break, but I'm not sure if my producer has the audio open for the break. So let's continue until he comes back to his station. Okay. So let's now talk about the importance of labor in a free, sovereign, democratic nation.
Yes. We have labor laws.
Mm-hmm.
And the labor laws have been improved over a period of time.
Right.
Certain things that we didn't have prior to 67,
Mm-hmm.
we have it today.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that some people take a lot of things for granted, and they don't know the hard work that unionists had to put into this to get where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the two heads, Brother Ferguson, O.B. Ferguson, and I think it was the one who was the former leader of BTC.
Of the BUT?
The BTC union. He was head of the other union. And both of them said it would seem...
Gibson, you mean? Shane
Gibson,
Gibson?
yeah, Brother
Mm-hmm.
Gibson, yeah.
Yeah.
It would seem as if things have gone backward. And I heard this from the two of them. The two heads of the two umbrella unions.
Right.
Well, now you got another third umbrella union. They
Right.
have their thing going.
Right.
But when I heard that, I said, are you serious about that? Well, that's something you got to pay attention to. Union leaders need to understand that those hard-fought labor things that were done by unionists back then, they were very tough leaders. They wasn't taking any foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give in because somebody say, accept this, accept it. No. They say, no, we are standing for things for our people so that they can benefit. And because of their hard work and commitment, we're able to benefit today tremendously. And a lot of the people who are part of unions now don't even know the history of what went down for these hard-fought labor rights.
Mm.
Labor itself has had a very difficult transition from the 60s into the 70s and so on, right on up into the 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, we got some people who want to pull the rug from under us, doing foolishness and nonsense. And even though, Ms. Malcolm, it is written down, and you could go back and check it again, they still want to take away those rights and freedoms from these employees. And we have foreigners who come into the country who are not familiar with our labor laws.
Mm-hmm.
It is important that labor be at the table when they're signing these heads of agreement. It would appear to me, and from what I'm hearing from labor leaders, that they're not at the table. Now, I don't know how an administration could sign something and the fellow don't know nothing about the labor laws of the country and feel that he could treat workers, because this is a serious problem today
Mm-hmm.
in the hotel industry and in other industries where the rights of these Bahamian citizens are being trampled upon because these fellas got big time money and some other things. They believe they have a right to act and do as they please. Now that's foolishness and nonsense. We have to fight that. And I tell people all the time, you got to stand up and fight, as our forefathers did. So I believe as we go down the road, our toughest battles are yet to come, because we're going to be severely tried and tested.
Let's talk about that on the other side of the break. We have to talk about the exploitation of labor in our
Yes, ma'am.
country and
Yes.
what can be done to eradicate it.
Exactly.
So that's what we're going to turn our attention to after the break. Stay with us. You're listening to GPS Global Paradigm Shift here on Global 99.5 FM. This is a masterclass of the Constitution of the Bahamas, and my guest today is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson. Stay with us.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson. We are talking the Constitution of the Bahamas, and we're still in the preamble. I think we're wrapping it up. We'll probably be able to get through the rest of the preamble within this particular show, but we'll see how it goes. The telephone numbers to call, 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line to send us a message. Speaking of which, I need to check to see if anybody sent any messages. That would be nice. It's 801-0271. 801-0271. Let's see if I have any messages here on WhatsApp. Let's see. I don't see any. We seem to be, unless I get in the wrong direction. It's a lot of messages, eh? Okay, so talking to Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson about the Constitution of the Bahamas, and we are at the section now of the preamble that speaks to the exploitation of labor in our country. What I want to know is what can be done, because we are assuming that there is some exploitation going on. It don't take a genius to figure that out.
I believe that.
So what can be done to eradicate labor exploitation in the country?
That's an excellent question. Let me just say this. It is going to take a unified effort by the leaders of the unions, the members of the union, and the Bahamian people at large. Because you're going to need the support of the people to bring that exploitation to a close. What people need to understand is a few people may be benefiting, and some people, they'll close the door. Well, I get my little check, so don't worry about that. But I tell them that when that brother is hurting and you get your little check, you're hurting too. But you just don't have the vision to see until your time comes and something happens to you. Then you realize it's a problem, and it could be too late. We have had many people who have been exploited in this country. They've lost money. They've lost income. Their families have suffered heavily. I think it is time that the Bahamian people face the issue of exploitation of labor in the public sector and in the private sector, because it's real. And we have to ask ourselves, how serious are we about eradicating it? How serious are we about putting the brakes on it? Because it isn't just going to happen just like that. We have to fight for that. Because there are those who will oppose you very strongly because you want to stand up for what is right, what is just, what is fair. So it's going to take an organized movement of people, an organized movement of labor leaders, an organized movement of union members. Now, there are some issues among the leaders and the members. That's understood. But let's look at the bigger picture. The Bahamas, where we all have to live. Because if a brother is hurting in Agua, and you think you got a little bit of food in Abaco. But the fella down now, we ain't getting nothing because he's being exploited. And you feel you're safe and you're okay. As long as that exploitation continues, all of us are suffering. And I think we have to look at the bigger picture instead of having this narrow-minded view that I got a piece of bread in my mouth. My family members got a piece of bread, so I'm content. See, I will never be satisfied as a Bahamian citizen until every single person in the Bahamas legally, and I say that deliberately, legally in the Bahamas, to have fair treatment when it comes to labor. Because you don't know who is going to confront you at any given time. It may happen when you least expect it. And no one is exempted from that. And what causes people to behave the way they do? I was talking to someone the other day, and I said things affect people differently. When that man can't buy food for them children, and the children keep nagging him. And God help him if you got a nagging wife. But the point is, he's frustrated. And if he doesn't get good counseling and someone to assist him and help him, it's going to spell trouble. But there has to be, to deal with this exploitation of labor, it's a national issue. See, the Constitution talks about a national commitment to do something. That's what we have to do. We got to be nationally committed. That's why this thing is so serious. It has grown to the point where it's no longer just one island or two islands. All over the country, we have this exploitation. From those who are coming in, say they want to do business there. And because they believe they got some money in their pocket, they can mistreat you and do anything as they please. There has to be unifying factors in place. And we have to determine what that is. And I believe, like I always say to people, Ms. Malcolm, get to know the neighbors who live next door to you. Right in your own street, right in your own community. That's where it starts. Even among your family members. And some of them, could be troublesome. But let's get on with each other. That's important. You ain't got to get personal with them. I got more than 50 years experience of dealing with people. The wife and the husband very friendly to me. Now, they didn't tell me this marriage, I know nothing about that. But I'm very friendly with the husband, very friendly with the wife. And then later on, I found that they're married. And I say, well, when it comes to it, the two of them laugh at me. But I say, you ain't telling me nothing, so I don't know. But my relationship with them doesn't change. It's long-standing because I don't get personal with them. And mind, Ms. Malcolm, they tell you all kinds of things, But you can't say it to nobody. That's the point. So I just pray to God and help me to forget about it. But if we could have that kind of relationship on the ground, in our communities, in our islands, in our constituencies, the country is going to be better for it. Let's work together to improve conditions with labor. And we have to put up some resistance, some serious resistance, because they are those who are trying to stop.
But Professor, I'm listening to you talk, right? And I realize that part of what you are talking about, especially when you mentioned that, some people's attitude is, well, I got my bread, so that's on you if you ain't got yours. But in many ways, the masses have been conditioned to think that way because back in the days of slavery, for instance, you had your slaves with a lighter hue who were treated better, who were taken into the house and were the house slaves. And then you had the slaves of the darker hue who had to work out in the hot sun all day because, they didn't want them in their house. And so it sort of bred this mistrust and this disunity between us based on what the massa determined who had more value than the other. But here's an important thing I think people need to understand. Pastor Miles used to say it all the time because, we hear all the talk about inflation and the prices are going up and prepare yourself and all that. And you really need to prepare yourself because famine coming, right?
Yes.
But Pastor Miles always used to say this when they start talking about economic crashes, etc. Pastor Miles always used to say, but no money has left the earth.
None.
So somebody benefiting from all of this.
Somebody.
And until we get to the point where we understand that for the masses, you may be feeling the pinch, the crunch, you may be, but somebody benefiting from it because ain't no money left to earth.
None left. Still here. That is correct. That is quite right. So it's an understanding. I'll give an example of my own parents because one was a nurse of the highest order. My mother, she passed in 1943 from Bahamas General Hospital. And my father was a charge engineer at BEC. Now see, the master needed the nurses. The master needed those people to keep the lights on.
Right.
So my mother and father were treated differently. If they were working as maids or janitors in somebody's house or in a hotel, the circumstances would be different. But they had to respect them. My mother would tell me how the people were not even allowed to use the cups. They had to use the cream can or the sweet milk can. And they had to stand outside in the yard and give it to them. They couldn't come in the house. That's how we were treated. And so that mentality psyche is still in our people.
Generationally passed down.
It passed right on down, yes. And that is sad. That is very sad. But we have to work at it. We have to get people to understand that there's some things we can do. And we have to start helping our brothers and sisters who don't understand to see differently. Because I want to see things change. I had an extensive talk the other night with my grandnephew, one of my grandnephews. And I was amazed at the kind of talent he has. I said, man, you really have something that can help this nation. And I said, I'm going to let you go to waste because I want you to be here to be able to help build the Commonwealth as one of our young people. They have a role to play. So we have to help them to understand the history of what we went through. Because a lot of them are frustrated. They don't understand the history. But we have to build on what has already been achieved and move the country forward. But we can't be selfish. We ought not to be selfish. I got my piece of bread. But somebody can come take that piece of bread from you. Because the fellows right in your area who are hungry see you got that piece of bread or that loaf.
And you become a target. Now, see, that's the danger. That's why in my area where I live, I get on well with everybody. I don't want to be a target. It mightn't be them who live there, could be someone coming through the community. But the point is, we have to change that kind of psyche thinking that because I have this or I have that, I'm better than this one or better than the other one. We are all human beings. We all have to drink water and eat food and so on and so forth. But we have to get over that. We have to be able to work and help each other. It's going to be rough at the beginning, but in the long run, it's going to pay off. Even on short terms, it will pay off. How quickly we adapt to changing, because that's what it takes. It takes change. And we need change in this country. 50 years, 56 years after majority rule, 50 years after independence, something has to give. We can't go for another 56, not like this. But here's the thing, Professor. We may not be enshackled with physical chains, but I dare say that many of our people are still enslaved mentally. The way Bob Marley put it, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Now, here's the thing. We could talk about economic emancipation till we blue in the face, until the cows come home. But if you don't emancipate yourself from mental slavery,
yes, ma'am,
then economic emancipation will forever be foreign to you.
That is correct.
So how do we now, considering what the preamble of the Constitution implores us to follow, how do we now usher in mental freedom, emancipating ourselves as a collective from, mental slavery, so that we can now change our mindset, change our paradigm, so that we can see ourselves in the position of having that economic emancipation. Because if you can't see yourself there, you'll never get there.
That's a good point. That's a valid point. And the Constitution helps us right in that preamble.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things we need to be committed to. And we have to look at it very seriously.
Right.
What are we committed to do as a people?
Mm-hmm.
If we are not committed to doing some specific things to preserve our freedoms, which our founding fathers fought so hard for example, it talks about national commitment to self-discipline, national commitment to do some very specific things, which simply means we got to start it right on that same street where you live, getting on with your local people, and it will spread. You'll be surprised to know how it would spread. But then if we keep rowing with one another, saying nasty things to one another, mistreating one another, then we're gonna stay tied down, because we look at that brother over there, we think no good of him, or that sister, we think no good of her. We always have this negativity in our heads when it comes to people that look like us. That's wrong. So to be free from that, we got to think positively. We got to think differently. We have to act differently. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take repentance. It's going to take a change in our behavioral standards and procedures. That's what it's going to take. Individually and also collectively. Because the collective comes after we change individually. So we have a lot of work to do. And sometimes the way I hear some people express themselves, even in my own area. Now, when I talk to them, they can listen to me. They say, Professor, we're sorry that we even said that. I say, you don't have me talk like that. And so you have to set a good example. But then at the same time, you don't berate people because they do something wrong. You have to correct them, yes, but how you do it is what's important. Because, Ms. Malcolm, I want to see change. We have too many males that are dying in this country. I'm disturbed over that. And you're not going to bring change by berating them and causing them to do worse than what they're doing now. That ain't changing nothing. There are things we can do to bring change, but it takes work and commitment. Are we committed to getting on well with the neighbor without getting personal? A lot of people don't do that. They like talk people business too much. So that creates division. And so people get upset because they're not pleased with that. So it's our behavior, the way what we think, the way how we act toward one another. We have to change that, take away these negative thoughts that permeate in our minds too often. And when we look at our people, let's look at what is positive. No, Ms. Malcolm, every time when I hear someone say something, there's always bad news. Nobody comes to bring you anything good or positive that has happened in their life. You always hear about either sickness or death or accident or this or that or the next thing. But when positive things happen to them, nothing's said.
You know why? I have a theory on that.
Yes, ma'am.
My theory on that is that so many people can't handle when you are blessed. Everybody, the saying is misery loves company.
Yes, it does.
So when everybody miserable, everybody good. But the minute you look like you stepping up and advancing a little bit,
yes.
Oh, there's a problem. We got to do whatever we could to hold that person down and keep them with us.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't want to share what's happening. They keep it close to their chest because the minute you put it out there, nowadays young people call them haters. All of a sudden the haters coming out of the woodwork.
Yes.
Trying to find a way to keep you down or pull you down. It's so sad.
It is sad. But the community has to grow. And you're going to see evidence of change in the behavioral patterns of people. You're going to see financial prosperity. You're going to see the community changing. The land is going to change. The buildings are going to change. The way how people are living is going to change. They're going to have a better standard of living. And we should wish that for everybody. We can't stay the way we are. That doesn't make any sense. So it's unfortunate that we have people who behave that way. Now, that is something a lot of us have to learn to change. I don't grudge people because they're making success, because when they make it, I make it too. That's one more you ain't got to worry about, that one. That's one less to worry about, provided, of course, they continue to do well. But you don't want to see them drop back and come down, and then they're not able to help themselves and to help other people. I think it's wonderful when people, see, with the knowledge of the Constitution I have, what is the point of Professor Thompson having all this information as there, like some others have, who die with it? I know of persons who are highly trained in law, in their specialty in law. But what good is it if the people don't know? There's no benefit to me and ain't no benefit to them. Now, once they get to know, I know there are going to be some fantastic changes, which will benefit me too. I want to benefit. I want to see a better country. I want to see better communities. But if I don't do my part to bring it about and say this is the direction we should be going in, and people believe and have confidence in what you say. That's why when I speak about the Constitution, I make sure that I don't have to come back and change what I say. If I'm not sure, if you ask me a constitutional question, I'm not sure, I'm going to tell you I have to look that over again.
Right.
Because I want to be sure. But the point is your credibility, your reputation is what goes out there. And I'm happy that people are listening and they are learning and they're understanding. That's wonderful. Now we're going to see the fruits of that, because we're going to see positive changes in this country.
Hopefully we will.
We need that.
Hopefully we will.
We certainly will.
Hoping you're right in that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me read a comment and then we're going to take a break. This one is coming in on YouTube from Adrian. Adrian says, the Constitution or preamble is a piece of cloth we as Bahamians don't know and don't understand. How could we contest lawyer politicians who do? Dr. Minnis during COVID said he would have to do things that are unconstitutional. Mr. Brave Davis is saying that the Bahamas would need to start giving asylum to seekers. No, I don't know if he said that. The government is the biggest employer in the country. You could lose your job, your livelihood, if you go against the government. What do you think? And the message was too long, and so that's where it ended in terms of what I could see.
I think I get the gist of what the call is saying. And I can understand him feeling that way because he's despondent. Okay? And I can appreciate that. But at least he's being open and honest. But the thing is, if that's the way we're going to start thinking now, then we might as well give up. You might as well say, because he's a lawyer. Let me just say this, and I'm glad he mentioned that, you know. The Constitution not just for lawyers or for QCs or for those who studied law. The Constitution is for everybody. So the judge sitting on the bench has an opinion. His opinion ain't no better than the woman in Baintown with them 5 boys or the man in Foxhill with 6 daughters. He has the right to express his opinion on anything. Same way the man in Foxhill can do, and his daughters. So if we're going to look at an individual and say, oh, he's a QC, or the prime minister made a statement, or we can't go up against the government. What do you mean we can't go up against the government? Didn't you elect the government? You can't go up against them. You can't challenge them. Who said you can't challenge them? See, this is the kind of thinking that's in his head. And I can appreciate him expressing that. Now we got to help him to change. That's my job. I can help him to change. Because I'm going to tell him right now, there's hope for you from the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which cannot be taken lightly. Even if a government fools around, attempts to fool around with it, there's a way to deal with that government.
Okay.
And so there's hope for the Bahamian people.
Well, there's also information because we live in an age now where everything is available to you at your fingertips.
Yes, at your fingertips.
Thanks to this wonderful invention called the
Lord.
internet. So you can go online, Google Constitution of the Bahamas. A PDF document is bound to come up somewhere that you can download and start to study this thing for yourself. And so that we really don't have an excuse to say, well, they know it and we don't. Because now, if it's written in a way that you don't understand, then ask for help in, figuring out what it is saying.
No, I was just about to say that.
Right.
Because the way how it is written,
Mm-hmm.
right? The average Bahamian will not understand it.
Mm.
That's why people like me around, to make sure it is made plain and simple. When I went to the meeting 2 Sundays ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was bombarded with all kinds of questions about the Constitution. And I appreciate that because people want to know. And they were delighted to hear things explained in simple, basic, fundamental language. See, that's the way I can teach all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no point talking in terminology like these other personalities who have all this legal training. And there's nothing wrong with the legal training.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking that.
Mm-hmm.
But if the message is not getting to the average Bahamian, the woman in Baintown with 5 boys, and the man in Foxville with 6 daughters, the woman in Engliston with those 4 disabled children, then what's the point? We got to help them to understand so we can have a better country. And let me tell you, when people understand the importance of this document and what it could do for us as a nation, their whole lifestyle will change.
Mm.
Everything about them will change.
All right. That's a good place to take a break. I want y'all to marinate on that point.
Yes.
When we come back, we're going to continue. We'll switch focus to talk about are citizens having their lives in the Bahamas frustrated?
Yes, good question.
Everybody will know the answer to that. But
That's a good question.
we're going to break it down. We're going to break it
right
down. Break
Praise
it
the Lord.
down. GPS is on the air. Like and share the show. Let everybody know the masterclass is on. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson, who is giving us a masterclass on the Constitution of the Bahamas. The telephone numbers to call: 3260271, 3260271, 3260271, or 3260272, 3260272. One more time, 3260272. And the WhatsApp line is 8010271. Now remember, WhatsApp is for text messages only. Please do not call the WhatsApp line 8010271. All right. We have to talk about the frustration that many Bahamians are experiencing. Are citizens having their lives in the Bahamas frustrated from among the people?
That frustration has been going on for too long now.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes people to do all sorts of things that are not good. When a person is frustrated, confused, worried, upset, all kind of negative things come out. And we should not put people in that kind of position where their lives become frustrated with turmoil. They're not going to be able to think properly. They're not going to be able to work properly because they are constantly under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And some are going to do some things that you're not going to like. So it is better to remove that frustration, and you will have better results by handling people differently. Now, some people, when they got power, they believe they use this power to take advantage of someone, keep them frustrated, keep them worried, keep them up in arms, and say, I got him now. But he can't wait properly. So don't keep pushing the button because something might happen that you might not appreciate. But yes, Bahamians are being frustrated by others within our country. That's all over.
Mm-hmm.
And it is sad that that is happening in 2022. After all these years, been an independent nation, 50 years next year.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that it is so important that we understand the qualities we ought to have as a people, which would eliminate the frustration and the other negative things, because it's a way of life that we must put into practice. And if people start doing that, employers and employees start doing that, we will have a better situation moving forward.
Interesting. Clearly, we are a very frustrated nation. The level
Extremely.
of anger out there is
Very high.
so thick you can cut it with a knife.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I was driving the other day and was about to turn through a corner, and a lady, a pedestrian, wanted to cross the corner. And so I stopped so that she could cross, and then I was going to turn through the corner. And a woman says to me, mind you, I stopped so she could cross now.
Right.
And like I try to run her down, and I stopped to be courteous to her so she could cross the street.
Yes.
And the woman says to me, you need to go carry your F&A.
Yeah. That's insulting.
And I'm like, how angry can this woman be that I am stopping to be
Allow her to
courteous
cross.
to you, to allow you to cross the street, and you cursing me out
Right.
for being courteous to you? But that just shows you the level of anger and frustration. And, you got to get to the point where I always, like, for instance, I'm involved with the Miss Bahamas organization.
Yes.
And often I tell the young ladies that come through our system, when you put yourself in the public eye, especially, prepare to be a target. You now have a
course.
target on your back.
You certainly
So
do.
you got to get to the point where you let it roll off of you
Roll
like
right
a
off.
water of a duck's back. Because
Yes.
if you take on these people and their anger issues,
Yes.
you're going to have a problem.
Big problem.
And
Yes, ma'am.
nowadays, that don't just hand and row. They coming back with weapon
Yes, they do.
to
That's-
shoot you and kill you.
That's why I always say to my sister, when I see certain things happening, it is better sometimes not to say anything because the
Mhm.
circumstances might not be the best
Right.
to even mention anything. There will be other opportunities you will have to be able to deal with issues like that. But at that point in time,
It
it
ain't
might
worth
be the
it.
best thing.
It ain't worth it.
So, because they're flaring up, and then your carnal nature could cause you to flare up, and then you have a major problem right on your hand.
So what?
Just out of you trying to be courteous,
Yeah,
and then she changes your whole paradigm.
if you let her,
If you let them, yeah, if you let them. And so I'm always conscious of the fact that a lot of times, and I've trained myself to do it, it is better sometimes, based on the circumstances, not to say anything or to even comment on some things.
well, here's the thing. Here's my belief. You don't have any control over the way other people treat
No, you
you,
don't.
but you certainly have control over the way you respond.
Oh, yes, you do. You
And,
certainly do.
and you have control over how you allow that to enter
Affect
your
you.
mental space.
That is correct.
You got to stop letting people take a precedence in your head rent free.
That's right.
Plenty of people walking around with all kind of people on their mind, rent free. They taking a precedence in your head,
Then
and
you
they
can do something else with that.
and they
time.
living their life,
Yes, they are.
and you frustrated.
That's
But
right.
now that being said, what can we as a collective do to alleviate some of this frustration that is being poured on us, not necessarily from citizens, but from external forces and external people?
That's a good point. Because, see, we're going to be pressured, and we are being pressured now from external forces.
Mhm.
Okay? In fact, when you look at what's happening right now, you see where the Prime Minister of our country, he and some other Caribbean leaders, I think it's another 3 of them or 2 of them, along with him, supposed to get together and say we're supposed to be assisting Haiti. I heard a documentary on Haiti just the other night, 2 nights ago.
Mhm.
Ms. Malcolm, Haiti has all kinds of problems,
Mhm.
and this stems way back. And now what has happened is their own political leaders have certain leanings to certain gangs that are so strong in the capital. They stake out territorial claims in the capital, Port-au-Prince, and some of the surrounding areas. That's their territory.
Wow.
And they rule by the gun. That's how they run things over there. And some of the politicians are very much afraid. They haven't had their presidential election yet. It is a tough call for CARICOM because the thing is, the Prime Minister said that CARICOM wants it to be a Haitian solution. Well, fine. It should be a Haitian solution, which means that the Haitian people who better understand what's happening there, more so than us. I'm not saying we shouldn't be concerned. Yes, we should be concerned. But they themselves have to show interest in what's happening in their country. See, we were going through some similar issues in the early 40s and 50s and so on. Look what we had to do. We had to fight. Our fathers had to fight.
Right.
And they fought hard to bring the nation to where it is today. But then those people over there with those complex problems and the kind of funding they've had over these many decades, billions and billions of dollars poured into that country. We never had that in the Bahamas. Out of all the problems we've had, and we are toting this burden on our backs alone. We're not getting any financial help. We're not getting financial assistance. Now, the Prime Minister may have bitten off more than he could chew because we have some serious problems here in the Bahamas, which need to be attended to. So I don't know where he's going with it.
Well, you know, they figure they gotta try go negotiate as best as they can with the gangs over there who are wreaking havoc with. I heard somebody say they can't negotiate with the gangs here and they can't be over there to try to negotiate with their gangs.
Don't, in fact, according to the documentary, Ms. Malcolm, if you hear what they say, how those fellas operate, they're into all kinds of things, kidnapping.
No, they some crazy fellas over there. They wild.
They're wild,
Yeah.
very wild.
Yeah.
So
It's
the
frightening.
gangs here are kind of timid to them fellas over there in Port-au-Prince and the wider country called Haiti. It's a terrible situation, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, so what are the, because we only got 14 minutes left in the show, so I want to see if we can get through this preamble.
Yes.
What are the articles that are provided for the indivisible unity under God?
The articles that are provided for the indivisible unity under God. For example, it talks about fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. You got a whole section for that. Also, we have Article 22, which talks about freedom of, that's freedom of conscience. Article 24 talks about freedom of movement, freedom of association, and so on. But these are rooted in spiritual principles that are biblically sound, biblically based. So you allow for the freedom. God allows us to have freedom. He gives us a mind to choose, to be able to make decisions. Sometimes we make some very terrible decisions. Our people have the same opportunity, the same privilege. But we are minded that God is available if we want him in our lives. And the Constitution speaks the fact that we are under the supremacy of God, not under some other God.
Right.
So we can always go back to those Christian values and Christian principles, even when there is something mentioned or not mentioned in the Constitution. We can fall back on those foundational principles on which we were built. So the thing is that the way the whole thing is structured, which allows for freedom, even freedom of religion, as I mentioned to you, freedom of conscience to think for yourself, not to be interfered with in that regard.
Okay.
So there's a lot in there that you can work with.
We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hi, good afternoon, Michelle.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bahamas.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I listening to the show, and I know that you all were dealing with the indivisible unity under God at this particular time, but I wanted to go back to the question where you all asked whether the Bahamians' lives are being deprived in any way. And I'm just thinking about the hotel workers, the tourism workers.
Yes.
Just want to make a quick point. As I understand it, there's a trend whereas, tips are not being allowed to be given directly to many workers. I wouldn't call the name of hotels, but some of the larger hotels on the island. I just wanted to point to that because here it is, they are unable to speak out because you're under threat. Your job is under threat. So I'll just put that one point on the table. The largest industry in the Bahamas has a trend whereby many workers cannot receive a tip directly for services rendered, which is a worldwide standard and best practice. So how is it that in the Bahamas? I'm not in the hotel industry, but I speak on behalf of those that I understand are being deprived and it's being allowed in the Bahamas right now.
All right. Thank you so much for calling.
Well, let me say this in response to the caller. I understood that, now I don't know if it has changed, that these tips are put in some sort of pool. Is he speaking about the gratuity?
I think so.
That's on the checks, right?
Well,
but I
not
from my
necessarily, because when you say on the checks, you may be speaking specifically to a restaurant situation, but he's talking about hotel workers in general, I believe.
Yes. But the thing is that I understand that they're supposed to be put in the pool because even people in the kitchen are supposed to get some of that money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if he's saying that if a guest is so pleased with what you're doing, he decides, in addition to his gratuity, he's going to give you something personal.
Right.
I'm not sure how that's supposed to work.
Okay.
But it's cause for concern.
Speaking of cause for concern, I want you to comment on this. I don't know if we have time though. Sorry, only 10 minutes left. Real quick.
Yes.
I remember during the pandemic, when there was protests about Atlanta's workers saying that they wanted to be paid their redundancy packages. Yes. And it seems that a law was tampered with or changed in favor of the employer to make sure that they wouldn't have to pay out the redundancy that would have been owed to these people
at that particular time.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Is that not a frustration?
Tremendous frustration.
So how was it allowed to that they were allowed to get away with that?
That's a good point, because I knew a friend of mine who was actively involved in that with his organization.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Adrian, Mr. Francis,
mm-hmm.
The talk show host on the former station.
Mm-hmm.
He had big meeting at his place, and you had hundreds of workers from Atlantis, and they tried to deal with that issue. What actually happened with it, I'm not sure what was the end result. But that caused a lot of frustration for the workers at the time. I think at the time they wanted to get it, but they couldn't get it because the government of the Bahamas decided that they could withhold it.
So was that unconstitutional?
Yes, it would be. Because it leads, you can't just, but see, this is why I tell people, you got to watch what a government is doing. You cannot just arbitrarily change the rules in midstream without consulting the union.
Mm-hmm.
The union was not involved. It's a bargaining unit. You just can't jump up and say, well, tomorrow we can do this, we can do that, without dealing with the union. And unfortunately, this has continued to happen, where things employers are doing which are contrary to the bargaining unit, the agreement
mm-hmm.
that is set forth with the union and the hotel. And so it's a fight that we have to deal with. And so it's a very frustrating issue. It frustrates the workers. Now, how the leaders intend to deal with it, that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But what I always say to them when I have the opportunity to speak to them is this. union leaders have to understand they have a responsibility to their members. The members need to understand they have a responsibility to their union. So they have to be on one accord. You can't have the leaders one way, the workers another way. That doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
You have to concern yourself with those bread and butter issues that you need to take this money home to your children and to your family. But what I've noticed sometimes, Ms. Malcolm, is that there is that division for whatever reason. And so the members are frustrated, and sometimes the union leaders are frustrated, and they're wondering, well, what am I supposed to be doing? But there has to be that unity to be able to bring about a desired result that will benefit the union leaders as well as the workers, the employees.
Okay.
But unfortunately, they have gotten away with it. And some of them have even said how long it takes to get these matters before the court. But when you're dealing with legal matters, it costs money.
Right.
So that's another avenue that people have to look at and say how best we can deal with that. Because it's a costly exercise. Now, some fellas got some money so they could hold up things. But you may not have the money.
Right.
It's another problem.
Okay. I think this is the last question as it relates to the preamble.
Yes, ma'am.
If we are a nation under God, it says, since we are under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, what should our relationship to that God be?
Our relationship to God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas should be obedience to his standards. In other words, we're to have a standard that pleases God. It also means that a lot of things that we're doing right now need to change. Some people forget. Some people get elected. They're so overwhelmed with what they're doing. And that is why it's important that Bahamians keep tabs on what a government or an administration is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship to God only requires one thing from us, is obedience for our benefit. God always wants to do things for our benefit, but he allows for free choice. He said, I said before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, see, even God advises us, therefore choose life that both you and your seed, your children, may live. So God wants us to live. The Constitution says there are certain things we need to preserve for our freedom. And as it relates to God, it means there are some specific things that we have to do according to God's standards to keep our relationship strong with him. And it has to do with our national life. He wants to be involved in our national life. But there are some people, again, who are saying we want to get rid of this principle of God. But if we do that, we're going to run into even more serious problems as we head further down the road. Because we're going to need God to help us with things that we have now.
With all due respect, Professor, if it get any worse than it is right now,
I don't want
like
to
the
see it
people
that
that say, God help us.
Yes, they will. It certainly will. And I will say that people get mixed up with what others say. Now, you got to learn to unravel yourself from that foolishness. We're constantly looking at what this one doing in China, what's this one doing in Spain, what's this one doing in Portugal, what's this one doing in Cuba. That's not our standard. They're human beings just like us. And they're going to make all kinds of mistakes. When they want to do things, they're going to just come here and say, Bahamians, what do you think we should do? Then people to the north of us, they don't ask us for any advice. So why is it to be running behind them? I even heard some things that were said about the Ministry of Education, about training. And I smiled to myself, why do we have to do this? The same children who are in those schools, the same children that live in Baintown, Centerville, are they behaving any differently? Is there a difference the way you handle the children inside the school as opposed to handling the same children with the same standards in the community? Is there such a tremendous change? And you always hear this training, this training, this training. What kind of training? To do what? For what benefit? Now, I'm nothing against training now, but to what purpose is this training? Because you're dealing with the same children inside the school, outside the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they say they spend $30 million just to repair the schools. That's a big chunk of money.
Yeah.
$30 million. Are we gonna, Miss Malcolm? You know, and I know, we've been having this problem with schools every year, every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Breakup of school buildings, breakup of this, breakup of that, breakup of the next, and you have to go through the same thing over and over.
Well, you know, and we out of time. We only got a minute left, so I got to wrap up. But you know, we are very, very good at building buildings, but not very good at maintaining them. Not just in the schools, but
throughout.
Yes, Professor, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you once again for giving us so much great information. I think we made it through the preamble, eh?
Well, that's wonderful.
After what, 4 weeks?
Five, eh?
So
I think this is the fifth one.
What we're going to do next week, God Spare Life, is we're going to now just start go through those articles.
Yes, ma'am.
And break them down so that our audience can understand what's in.
Let's have it, Article 1.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking forward to it. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's my time, y'all. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much to Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson for explaining to us what this Constitution contains. It's 4 o'clock. We got to get out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good one.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests